Hanover, Germany. I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Joining me once again is Talmadge Rodger Varnado III.
We'll see if you're happy to talk to me in about 2 minutes.
Talmadge, I don't think I've ever not been happy to talk to you. So whatever happens in the next 2 minutes, I don't anticipate changing that. Well, we're here doing another top 10 list. This one, sometimes I like to put stipulations on things that we do.
Sometimes.
This one,
Oh my God.
This one, I really kind of backed us into a corner. We're going to be talking about the top 10 players in NBA history under 6 foot. And when I pitched this to Talmadge, I made sure and said, we're not going to do all this hypothesizing. Well, Iverson's listed as 6 foot. He might have been 5'11" and 7/8. If that's the case, he's probably the landslide number one. I said anybody listed at 6 foot or above does not qualify because we're going to eliminate all the gray area. Mm-hmm. We're not going to speculate. So Chris Paul and Iverson and any of these guys that were listed as 6 foot that might be a little under, you're not on the list. That's the qualifiers. Listed at 6 foot or under. And I will say this was the hardest of our top 10 lists that I've done. In theory, you would think it should have been easier because all of our other lists, you've got all this data, you got all these options, you got to figure out and narrow down. There's so many less options with this one. You might think it would have been easier. This was the hardest one for me. I was like, there's only about 14 guys that I came up with, and now I got to, who do I narrow it to?
I'll take it a step further. It wasn't hard for me at all because I didn't do it. Because I just like, there's not 10. I'm sorry, there's not. So
you have no list.
I have a list of 5. And the other 5, whoever you say, I'm just going to agree with.
Okay.
I have no one.
Well, is this why you said I might not want to talk to you in 2 minutes?
Definitely why. I'll use my phrase. There's no question.
There's just no question. Okay, so this will be your first time it's a top 5 list. I have a top 10. So do you want me to do my 10 through 5 and then we'll go to top 5s?
I'm completely lost. It's however you want to do it. I can just call out names if you want. Why don't I just do mine?
Why don't you do your top 5 and then I'll do my 10?
Because mine will take like 20 seconds and then we'll give you the rest of the
Okay,
time.
let's go.
But I'm not even going to say what number. I didn't even get that far. I'm just going to say
you got 5 guys.
This is somebody on my list. One person on my list would be Nate Robinson.
Okay.
Is he on your list?
You want me to tell you now?
Yeah, tell me now if he's on your list.
He actually was like maybe my number 11. He barely didn't make my list.
Where are you finding these munchkins?
You'll find out when I go. He barely was left off my list.
Okay, well, he's on mine, my 5 list. Nate Robinson, he won the slam dunk contest. I know that
3 times, if I'm not mistaken.
He's quick and explosive like most players of his size. For his size, had great leaping ability as well, and made a nice career for himself. All jokes aside,
yeah.
You know, all of these guys that were challenged with height to make it to even the NBA. I don't care if you're the 12th man that sits the bench. It's pretty phenomenal. But Nate had his moments for sure. Go to my next one? Or?
Go to your next one, I guess, yeah.
How about Mr. Earl Boykins? I know you know him because you've talked about him previously.
Oh, I have. He's one of my favorites.
So I'll let you talk about him. I'm just giving names at this point. Of course, you can't have a list like this without Spud Webb.
Okay.
And then finally, of course, Muggsy Bogues.
Very, very obvious choice.
The last person on my list is the number 1 person on the list. I don't care what anybody says. If we're not counting the Iversons and Isaiahs of the world, because they're right at 6'1". I talked about him in a previous episode. I don't know if it's aired yet, but it's Mr. Calvin Murphy easily because he's a Hall of Famer. And nobody else on this list is. At least my 5-person list.
At least not
now
your list.
Your 38-person list of the munchkins of the NBA. Maybe there's one I'm not thinking of. But, I failed the homework assignment today, guys. I really did look, and I came up empty.
But that speaks to the fact I said this was my hardest. Apparently it was for you, too. You didn't even finish it.
I couldn't finish it. I quit. So he's not inviting me back. If you like me, this is the last time you'll see me.
Hope y'all enjoyed having Talmadge on the show. But I will say some of my qualifiers obviously with a lot of mine, I always look at longevity.
Okay.
I'm going to look at stats, but then there's always some debating within that. And with these guys, there's going to be some of them that y'all think, well, he shouldn't be ranked ahead of this one. I did take their height into consideration.
Okay.
Because, and you already mentioned Muggsy, just being in the NBA under 6 foot, just being in the NBA period is phenomenal. Being under 6 foot, tremendous achievement. But I will say, I think it was more challenging for a guy 5'3" than a guy 5'11".
Makes sense.
So I may have some guys on here, y'all may not agree with my order, but some of it's going to be, it was this much harder because of the height difference.
And since I have no argument, because I don't have a list, there's nothing I can say. So for once, I won't be saying anything. Go.
All right, so I already told y'all, Nate Robinson barely didn't make my list. Everything you said, I concur. He played 11 seasons. His longevity wasn't quite the same as some of these guys, so that's part of the reason. My number 10 is Dana Barros.
Why didn't I think it? Yeah, I should have thought of him. That's my fault. Yeah.
5'11", 163 pounds, played 14 seasons. I'm not going to go exhaustively through stats for all these guys, but I'll hit some marks. For Barros' career, he averaged 10.5 points, 1.9 rebound, 3.3 assists. His career three-point percentage was 41-1.
Yeah, he could really shoot it.
He was a shooter. He had a 50-point game at one point.
Yeah.
The 94-95 season, 20.6 points, 3.3 rebounds, 7.5 assists, 1.8 steals, with a three-point percentage of .464.
Best years with Philly?
Philly or Seattle. He played with
Yeah, he
both
played
of
Seattle
them.
a lot too. Yeah.
Just a side note that doesn't have anything to do with this, but you remember the Tecmo basketball game?
Yeah.
Tecmo is mostly known for the
football. Yeah.
And we could do an episode about that sometime maybe. But Tecmo had a basketball and then for the regular Nintendo and then the Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time playing a season with Seattle on the Super Nintendo. And, of course, it wasn't, if you were any good at those games, it wasn't that hard to go undefeated against a computer.
Right.
But I was just destroying, and I had Gary Payton and Sean Kemp both averaging more than 20. Payton was leading the league in assists. Dana Barros averaged like 39 points a game. Because on fast breaks, if I saw him on the wing, he was getting the ball and over 50% threes on the season. I would just destroy people with Dana Barros. That's how good a shooter he was. He wasn't that good in real life, but 41-1 for his career. So
you'll know what I mean. They may not, but you'll know what I mean. At least I didn't put James Harden on the list.
If you hadn't seen all our episodes, get caught up and you'll understand that. But yeah, Barros for his career only 10.5. That's why he's not higher, but
good play. I'm
14
surprised.
seasons and he was a solid all-around
Surprised
player.
I didn't think of him though. Because
so Talmadge could have had a top 6 if he thought of Dana Barros.
That surprises me. Yeah, because I
I'm a
should have
little
thought
surprised too because I know we've probably not talked a lot about
and
him.
And he, depending on matchups, I saw him kill folks. He used to kill Kenny Smith. Not that Kenny
I've
Smith
heard
was
Kenny
he
Smith
used
say
to
that was the
kill
one
Kenny
guy
Smith.
he hated going against. You're right.
He used to kill. I mean, he was cat quick too, boy. I remember one game against the Rockets. He had like, I don't know if it was 50, but it was right around 50.
He could.
And
he
they
could
just
people up,
they could not stop him once he got going. So I'm kind of embarrassed.
If I remember, it was when he was with Seattle and it was a game against Houston. He did just drum them.
We couldn't do a thing with him.
Yeah,
and
Kenny Smith has said he hated playing against
And they had Sam
Barros.
Cassell, they had Kenny Smith, they had Vernon Maxwell.
didn't
They
matter.
threw everybody at him, and he was
And Vernon was
killing
a
them.
great defender.
Yeah,
So
no
the fact
question.
that Barros was still
He was killing
5
them.
inches shorter and lighting him up, yeah. So yeah, he's my number 10. Number 9, I have Ty Lawson, 5'11", 195 pounds. He played 8 seasons. His longevity wasn't as impressive as some of these others.
And he had a horrible year with the Rockets. That's why he didn't make my list. The real reason why he didn't make my list, and I should have looked it up, I thought he was 6 foot.
I wasn't sure until I
thought he
researched. I
was
knew
6
he was
foot.
in that range.
Okay.
5'11" is where he was listed. My number 10 spot came down to Ty Lawson, Dana Barros, and Nate Robinson.
Okay.
It was those 3 I had really, I don't even know how much time I spent. For something that has no actual consequence, I spent so much time.
But I'll say
putting them in
this.
order.
Lawson, his years in Denver,
Yes.
he's clearly on the list.
He had a
he was
stretch.
actually a really good player in Denver. That's why when the Rockets got him, we thought we needed a point guard and moved James back to the two. And he was horrible with us, but that's because James just monopolizes the ball so much. It wasn't a good
Lawson
fit.
didn't really get to make the impact he was capable of. But for his career, 8 seasons, 12.7 points, 2.7 rebounds, 6.0 assists, 1.2 steals. For 2013-2014, 17.6 points, 3.5 rebounds, 8.8 assists, 1.6 steals per game. So with each of these guys, I'll tell their career and then kind of their best year.
Okay.
Just to give an idea of why a guy like Ty Lawson, I think, belongs on the list.
But of the players so far, I think Lawson is the best. Yeah, I just didn't know he was under 6 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So see, Talmadge is building his list as we go. He's kind of got a top 7 now once he starts throwing by guys. My number 8 is our first overlap, Earl Boykins. 5'5", 135 pounds. This has nothing to do with his basketball playing, but I'm going to still mention it. Reportedly, he could bench press over 315.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I read an article on Sports Illustrated one time, and when he played for Golden State, Anton Jameson, who was 6'9", 235, flat out said, when Earl comes to the gym, I will not work on chest. I'll do legs.
Oh, wow.
Because he said, I'm too embarrassed that this guy's 90 pounds lighter than me.
And he was kind of built.
He was kind of ripped, so you could tell he worked out. But, yeah, reportedly he could bench press more over 315. At 135, it's pretty stinking impressive. He did play 13 seasons. He played over in Italy, so it wasn't 13 consecutive.
Okay.
He would bounce around. Some of them weren't full seasons, but 13 overall seasons. Career averages 8.9 points, 1.3 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 348 career three-point percentage, 876 career free throw percentage. 06-07, he finished second in the Sixth Man of the Year voting.
I remember
For that year, he averaged 14.6 points, 4.4 assists, 2.1 rebounds, 397 three-point percentage, and 898 free throw percentage. So, overall, I think a solid player, a guy that you might not mind having come off your bench that can put up some points. He is the shortest player in history ever to score 30 or more points in a game.
Okay.
He had a 32-point game 1 year with Denver. So not quite a 50-point game, but again, he's 5'5".
That's pretty solid.
Barros is 5'11".
Yeah.
So for his height, I've got him at number 8. Number 7, Anthony Spud Webb, 5'6", 133 pounds, built very similarly to Earl. Maybe couldn't bench press as much. At least I've never heard anything about that.
They haven't told us.
They haven't publicized that. Spud has played 12 seasons. Career averages 9.9 points, 2.1 rebounds, 5.3 assists. For the 91-92 season with Sacramento, 16 points, 2.9 rebounds, 7.1 assists, 1.6 steals per game. So he wasn't always that good, but that's a heck of a season. He was their starting point guard.
Yes, I remember
So unlike Earl, in some ways I think Earl's better. He was more of a deadly shooter. But Spud averaged slightly more points for his career and more assists, and he started point guard in Sacramento for like 4 or 5 years.
And I would say, besides Ty Lawson on this list so far anyway, that he was probably more of a pure point guard. I think the others played point guard
Barros
because of their height.
Was more of a shooting guard that played there, and even Boykins was more of a skill set shooter.
But I think Spud was like the only one that truly, if he could have been 6'5", and he would have been a point guard.
Quite likely, yeah. So, I concur with that. Outside of Ty Lawson, of the guys I've named thus far, he's more of a pure. And who could forget the 86 slam dunk contest? That's what made everybody realize who he even was.
Right here in Dallas, Texas.
Right here in Dallas, Texas, which is where he played his high school ball as well.
Yes, sir.
So, my number 6, I have Terrell Brandon.
I forgot. Okay, I feel like an idiot. Because he had some great years with Cleveland.
He was 5'11", so you may have just thought he was a 6-footer.
Yeah, I didn't even think of him. He was borderline all-star good.
Oh, yeah, he was. I think in a couple of years he either was an all-star or almost.
Yeah, he was really good.
5'11", 180 pounds, played 11 seasons. Career averages 13.8 points, 3.0 rebounds, 6.1 assists, 1.6 steals for a career. Career three-point percentage, 35.5. For the 96-97, here was one of his all-star or borderline all-star seasons. 19.5 points, 3.9 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 1.8 steals, three-point percentage of 373 for that season.
Yeah. He was
pretty good career.
He was a really good player.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, he took over point guard from Mark Price. So that ain't easy to do.
No. Almost anybody coming in behind Mark Price was going to have their work cut out for him the way he orchestrated it.
And he was pound for pound strong. He was quick. Didn't have a great shot, but it was mid-range was good enough.
His percentage wasn't bad, though.
Especially for that era.
Yeah,
I mean, 35.5 back then was probably pretty good.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't just deadly, but he could shoot it. He wasn't a liability.
No, he just took over the Ty Lawson spot. Yeah, he's the best pure point guard now.
So far, yeah.
Yes.
I concur. All right, now I'm getting to my top 5, Talmadge. Number 5.
I already gave my top 5, but that's all I had.
You did. Here's another guy I can't believe you didn't think of, Michael Adams.
Yeah, okay. Let's just face it. I didn't give this the thought that it deserved because, Michael Adams, especially with Denver, man. He was, in that offense with that coach, he was the perfect point guard.
He really was. 5'10", 162 pounds, played 11 seasons. Career averages 14.7 points, 2.9 rebounds, 6.4 assists, 1.7 steals. For the 90-91 season, 26.5 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 10.5 assists, 2.2 steals.
And he could shoot the three.
This is a guy that I have seen on multiple occasions be on a 1-0 fast break.
Yep.
Pull up for 3 and rip it.
And playing him in Denver with that altitude, the way he pushed the ball, I hope you got your rest the night before.
Oh, because you weren't going to keep up with him on that court. Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and admit I didn't pay this any attention like I should have. These are names I should have thought of. So this is my fault completely.
Talmadge heard the subject and thought, well, why would I do that?
Just like, pretty much. And I'm just like, I feel like a complete idiot. Because Adams was a really good player.
Like I said, I can't believe you didn't think about it. Well, I remember when I pitched this to you over the phone, the first thing you said was, are there even teams?
Right.
I said, it'll be tough, but I think we can. I named a few, and you were like, oh, okay, this is more than I thought. And
I must have just disconnected because these are names I should have thought. Now, a couple of them I didn't know. Like, I thought Brandon was
You thought Terrell Brandon, Ty Lawson.
And I thought Lawson was 6 feet. So, but Adams I knew. And I just didn't think of him.
Yeah. And my number 4 guy, I also kind of can't believe you didn't think about, Damon Stoudemire. 5'10", 171 pounds.
And he was a high draft pick too. So
Rookie of the Year with Toronto.
Yeah. I was never a fan of his game, so that's probably why I didn't think of it.
Okay.
But
see, I liked him coming out of Arizona. I was a fan of him.
I never liked his game.
Interesting. What was it that you didn't like? I'm just curious.
I thought his shot selection was poor. I didn't think his body would hold up, even though he had a strong upper body.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he really ran a team. I thought
he was more of a shooting guard that played point guard. Right. I will give you that for sure.
And so I just wasn't a fan. And I was down on Isaiah Thomas at the time too. I'm not now, but I'm talking about the real Isaiah Thomas. And I didn't really realize Isaiah's greatness until years later when I look back at it. I was like, wait a minute, why this guy? You can make the argument second, third best point guard of all time.
He's in the conversation.
But Isaiah drafted him, and I was like, if Isaiah's picking you, you can't be that good. And I was completely wrong.
Stoudemire, 5'10", 171, played 13 seasons. Career averages 13.4 points, 3.5 rebounds, 6.1 assists, 1.1 steal. So while I concur he wasn't actually a pure point guard, he did average 6 assists a game for his career. The 96-97 season, which was his second year in the league, I already said he was Rookie of the Year, 95-96, where he averaged 19 points, 9 assists. His second season, 20.2 points, 4.1 rebounds, 8.8 assists, 1.5 steals per game. His first 3 seasons were with Toronto. He averaged at least 17 points, at least 8 assists a game. When he went to Portland, he was on some better teams,
Yes.
but they distributed the ball more, and his
Yeah.
numbers went way down. He was averaging like 12 to 13.
And there was a ton more talent on that.
There
team.
was more
Wasn't
guys
he on
taking
the team?
shots.
Was like when Jimmy Jackson was there.
Jim Jackson,
and
Scottie
Steve
Pippen,
Smith, and they were just
Brian
Rasheed,
Grant,
all
Rasheed
that.
Wallace.
Yeah, so
Damon wasn't getting as
yeah,
many shots,
yeah.
so his numbers did start to go
I think
down.
Pippen ended up on that team.
And Pippen was a guy that liked to dominate the
Yeah.
ball, so Stoudemire
I could see
kind of
that.
got lost in the
Yeah.
mix of that.
Physically
lineup.
and logistically.
Logistically and
Because it's easy to get
theoretically.
lost at
When you're
5'7".
5'10", his nickname was Mighty Mouse. He got a Mighty Mouse tattoo. And I, as a kid, I was always a fan of the Mighty Mouse cartoon too.
I liked it too, yeah.
You know, he's my number 4. Now here's where it got really difficult. My top 3.
Okay.
My number 3 guy, I could make a case for being number 1, and he almost ended up number 1.
Okay.
I'll explain why he didn't, but I'll go ahead and say my top 3 were very difficult. My number 3 is Tyrone Curtis Muggsy Bogues. 5'3", 140 pounds. One reason that I almost put him number 1, he's the shortest guy on this list.
Right.
It's challenging for any of them. It was more challenging for him. And so by that logic alone, I was almost like, should he be number 1?
And he had numbers comparable to those.
And
that were
that's what
top,
I'm
yeah.
saying. He played 14 seasons. Career averages 7.7 points, 2.6 rebounds, 7.6 assists, 1.5 steals. For the 93-94 season, starting point guard for a playoff team in Charlotte, 10.8 points, 10.1 assists, 4.1 rebounds, and 1.7 steals per game. We've talked in other episodes about his on-the-ball pressure and all of that. His points weren't as high as these other guys. Again, it was more challenging for him. Other than Earl and Spud, these other guys got at least 3 inches, actually 4 or 5 inches on Muggsy.
And I'll say this, like you say, he started some in Charlotte. I'm not saying he didn't, but for the majority of his career, he was just the perfect backup point guard. You could bring him off the bench, and he's going to bring
nobody's second unit could keep up with him.
Plus, like we talked about, instant ball pressure.
Yeah.
He was going to distribute. Plus, you are going against somebody's second string, so you can kind of overcome some of your limitations because they're not as good as the first string. So, of all the players you've mentioned, I think he fit his role the best.
I concur. And actually, 7.6 assists for his career, that's the highest of anybody on this list.
That's pretty impressive.
So you want to talk, and I will say this, and y'all can disagree, and that's fine. If I were actually going to pick one of these guys to be my point guard and run my team, it might be him. Terrell Brandon would be tough to go, but I might go with Muggsy.
Yeah, for me, Lawson or Brandon would be probably ahead of him, but that's it.
But yeah, and I would say maybe them, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Muggsy, because of the on-ball pressure, and he played the passing lane so well, he didn't need to score to have a big impact on the game. And you could look at this guy, he's 5'3". If people didn't, other than hardcore NBA fans that would recognize him on sight, he could be in any room in the world and nobody paid attention. You could go to any playground on this planet.
You're right.
Put him out there with 9 other guys, and when you're picking teams, he'd probably be the last person picked, and then the game starts, he's going to destroy everybody on that floor.
I'll give it to you.
He's that good, and you would not ever think it by
and
looking
a heck
at
of a competitor. That's what always stood out to me.
Yes.
Because of his size, probably, he knew he had to compete.
fight harder, and he did.
And he took it, but he did. And
Yeah.
You physically saw it. He backed down from nobody, even at that size.
He would even, Michael Jordan tried to post him up and had a little bit of problem.
I remember that.
Like Muggsy even kept him out of the
Muggsy wasn't
perimeter.
having that.
And Jordan could post up any guard in the league at that time, just about. I mean, there's, Vernon Maxwell and some guys who give him a problem, but Jordan wasn't going to back down for anybody either. Muggsy didn't care that this was the guy that could score on everybody. He was still bodying him up and swatting at the ball.
Muggsy Bogues' game reminded me of this player. They played in the same era, but this guy was actually obviously taller, because who wasn't? But
anybody, yeah.
But I would say he was like a shorter Derek Harper to me.
I can see that.
He played that kind of defense. He backed down from nobody, hit clutch shots. Because we've talked about this before too, briefly. Derek Harper to me might be one of the most underrated players and one of the best players to never make an All-Star game.
Because probably
his run with Dallas when they had like Ro Blackman and Mark Aguirre and Roy Tarpley and Detlef Schrempf. I mean, That was a loaded. That was a loaded squad, and
Yeah.
Derek Harper drove that bus. So I know I'm getting
And then
off
he was
track.
pretty good when he went to the Knicks too.
Yeah.
So.
So, but Muggsy reminds me a lot of him. That defensive pressure was the
Yeah.
same because Harp would do that too. I mean, full court right in front of your face.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I could definitely see
So
that.
yeah, Muggs, he would be my, if I were choosing an actual point guard to run my team. And I'll say this before I move on. I've made the cases for why I almost made him my number one. It would have been so easy for him to say, I was pretty good in high school, but I need to find a job doing computer repairs or become a salesman. To even think to try to go to the NBA at his height is something most people wouldn't do. And he's gone into coaching since he's been retired.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what he's doing right now, but he's coached on some different levels. I think this guy, I don't know how dynamic he is or how comfortable he is with what I'm about to say. I think he should be a motivational speaker.
It's possible. I mean, without knowing.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know him in that realm.
But because
what
of
he overcame
based on
in
his experience,
mentality and experience of what obstacles he overcame,
Well,
I feel like that's a great path.
And I know why he resonates with you because he's a guy that didn't give up on his dream, and we know that you have had a dream for years and you refuse to give up on it.
Yeah.
You're not letting anybody take it from you, and so I know he probably resonates with you for that reason as
I've
well.
always been a big fan of him for a lot of those reasons. So my top two guys, and keep in mind, some of these guys aren't going to make a top 10 greatest list anywhere else. I'm saying within the confines of being listed under 6 foot. So y'all might have heard some of my guys right now and go, really? Keep in mind the parameters. Yeah. My number 2 guy, you said the name, but it's a different one. My number 2 guy is Isaiah Thomas, not the Pistons great.
I got you.
But the 5'9", 185-pound Isaiah Thomas, because he qualifies to be on this list. He did play 12 seasons, career averages of 17.5 points, 2.4 rebounds, 4.8 assists, career three-point percentage 36.3, career free throw percentage 87.2. For the 2016-2017 season, 28.9 points.
That was the year with Boston, right?
Yes, with Boston.
Where he almost won the MVP.
And you can see 28.9 points, 2.7 rebounds, 5.9 assists. He had a 379 three-point percentage that year and a 90.9 free throw percentage.
If he had 99, put him number 1.
90.9 free throw percentage, or .909 technically the way they do. But yeah, to be 5'9" and to put up those kind of numbers, pretty stinking impressive. And I talked about how Nate Robinson barely didn't make my list. I mean, Nate Robinson was good. He had an 11-year career, averaged 11 points a game. But other than the explosive dunking, I couldn't really put him above these other guys I've got on here.
I can see that.
Most of them played a little longer. And the point, I mean, other than Spud, Muggsy, and Earl, these other guys all averaged more points. Dana Barros was 10.5. He was kind of right in there. But the longevity and the three-point shooting and all that was separate.
And I would say Dana's a more complete player, so I would have chosen him as well.
If you thought
that's
about
just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right.
But. But the Isaiah Thomas, which is not, he's number 2 all time of all Isaiah Thomases are concerned.
That's true.
Definitely.
And by the way, he actually tried to get a tryout this year to get back into the league.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I did not know
I don't know where that went. Probably nowhere because he didn't get back in the league. But
we know where it didn't go.
But I know he was working to do that and putting feelers out.
That's pretty interesting. I did not know that. But yeah, for a time, especially in his peak, he was as deadly a scorer as it was. You don't average.
That year in Boston was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have to say that.
Putting almost 30 points a game up.
And it came out of nowhere because we knew who he was. He'd been in the league, but that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I concur. So he's my number 2. My number 1 is the same guy that Talmadge had as his number 1. It is Calvin Murphy. The only difference is I almost put Muggsy ahead of him.
Gotcha.
For all the reasons I've already mentioned. Calvin Murphy, 5'9", 165. The reason I almost edged Muggsy ahead, I was like, but what if Muggsy had been 5'9"? How much better could he have been?
I know you used that. We did that with, I think, best power forwards.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why
Barkley,
Barkley's it's because of the height. So yeah, I totally.
But I finally had to say, you know what? There's so much speculation. Muggsy might have been better at 5'9", but I don't know, and I do know what Calvin Murphy did. So I settled on Murphy at number 1, but it was close. It really was.
Well, plus it would have been harder because, like I said, Murphy's a Hall of Famer. So
that's a tough
there's
sell.
no way to get past that.
And Calvin Murphy, 13 seasons, 17.9 points for his career, 2.1 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 1.5 steals. For the 77-78 season, 25.6 points, 2.2 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 1.5 steals. He had a 91.8 free throw percentage for his career. 5 different seasons, 91.8 free throw percentage was for that one season. He had 5 different seasons averaging 20 or more points, including 3 consecutive. His career free throw percentage was 89.2. And one of the biggest things about him, and you've heard us say this about Pete Maravich, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor, and some other guys, Calvin Murphy spent his entire career without a three-point line.
Yeah.
So not only did he average 17.9 points per game for his career at 5'9", what could he have done with a three-point line? He might average 25 a game for his career. I don't know.
And again, I know we're not counting college careers, but you talked about Pistol Pete.
Yeah.
They were in a scoring battle for 2 years. They would fluctuate.
You were competing with Pistol Pete in college.
That means you're averaging close to 40 in
Yeah,
college.
you had to even be in the conversation. So.
And he was at a smaller school, Niagara, but still, to get drafted that high at that height, with playing against that competition, they're basically saying, we don't care that you're short.
Right.
We don't care that you didn't play against the greatest competition. We still think you're going to be great anyway. And he was.
And he was. So, yeah. Calvin Murphy, a pretty easy choice, but I just had to admit, he almost came in number 2 because Muggsy almost leapfrogged him and Isaiah Thomas. But I finally was like, if I'm going to speculate how good Muggsy could have been, if they're the same height, I got to also speculate what would Murphy's numbers look like if he had a three-point line. So I was like, there's a little gray area with both of them, so I'm going Calvin Murphy.
And the thing that really stands out to me about him, and I'm sure it's with all of them, I just happen to know his story a little more, is his confidence, man. I remember there was a playoff game in 81, I think the second round, and he had to hit 2 free throws to ice it. And of course, he was a great free throw shooter. But when he stepped to the line, even the local commentator on the radio was like, he already counted the points. He's like, the Rockets are going to win the game by this score. Because, that was once those free throws were over, the game was over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as a kid, I'm sitting thinking, well, but he could miss. And his colleague even said that. Well, he could miss. He's like, the final score is, and of course he went and drained them both. I mean,
wow.
he was a very confident player, which you have to be at that height. But any key shot. I remember also a game against San Antonio in the second round of that same playoff year. Game 7 in San Antonio, Old Hemisphere Arena. Don't know exactly how many points. It was in the 40s, I think 42. Him and the Iceman were just going back and forth. And Calvin Murphy got into the Fountain of Youth, because this was the end of his career, and pulled out a 42-point game, and the Rockets won Game 7 on the road in San Antonio. Again, confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence. And you can see that from all the Muggsy Bogues. You saw it when he played. You could just see it when he played. Confidence. So to be that height and to be this good, you had to be confident.
It mattered nothing to Calvin Murphy or Muggsy Bogues that they were sorting everybody else on the floor. They just knew they were going to play the game that they knew how to play. Yeah, so all right. Well, there was our top 5 and top 10 list players.
If anybody wants to finish my list for me, put it in the comments, because I didn't do it.
Let us know in the comments. The only other guys I even kind of consider was Avery Johnson, 5'11". He did have a good career.
He probably should be on that list.
As I say, he was kind of tough to leave out.
Yeah.
He wasn't a big scorer. That was kind of one reason, but he could run a team. He was definitely one worth mentioning. There wasn't too many others.
And he talked real funny, too. He talked real funny.
Oh, yeah. No, I forget. Oh, yeah. But, yeah, there wasn't too many others I even really could think about. So there are our lists. Hope y'all enjoyed this as much as Talmadge enjoyed making his list. If y'all did like it, please show that by clicking the like button. If you've not already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It'll help enable me to continue to bring you this type of content as well as many other types. So for Talmadge Rodger Varnado III, I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Hope y'all have a great week. I hope I see you again real soon I mean, the fact that